Very good morning. Welcome, sir.
We are so honored to have you, sir.
Hi, morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sir. We can. We can.
Professor Kavita has just informed me that you have saved me time by already giving my introduction, and I can go straight away into the subject now.
Sir, welcome to Galgotias. Great to have you, sir.
Thank you. So can I go ahead now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
So good morning, everybody, and thanks for having me over and speaking to all of you. I'm so happy to be here. I've been thinking about this subject. I've been talking and I've been, at all sides of the spectrum. At IIM Bangalore, while I was teaching the students, I was also getting the feedback as to what the employers are thinking. Before that, I was at the Reserve Bank and then at the IMF. And many MBA students would be joining our institutions, would see them working. And now that I've left the IIM 3 years back and back into the world in the sense that on the board of Punjab Sindh Bank and on the National Housing Bank, again seeing the performance of the MBAs. So I'm really thankful to you for inviting me to deliver a keynote address on such an important topic. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I want to thank Professor Kavita who connected with me and got me over. And I think it's an honor and privilege to be speaking to all of you. Thank you for this opportunity. Now, what I'm planning to do in this keynote is do some random thinking. And why do I want to do that? Because I'm on the home front. We are all, as I understood from Professor Kavita yesterday, we are all from the faculty and therefore, and some research scholars, of course, and therefore I think that we are here together and it's important we think together. So let me share a few thoughts with you. I did my postdoctorate studies at Harvard, as you already know, and I had a chance to go and interact with professors at Harvard Business School. I was in the Department of Economics and doing lots of classes both at MIT and the Kennedy School. And these were good academic institutions. But now when I went to the Harvard Business School, I was totally transformed. Let me give you one episode before that. In 1984, I joined Reserve Bank of India as one of their research officers. It was an exciting opportunity. I was thrilled joining the Reserve Bank of India, and that was not my first job. I had already worked at 2 different places before that. But when I joined the Reserve Bank of India, it was a very different experience. I was under awe. The building that I was working in, the people that I was working in, I was under awe. It took me nearly 6 months to find my feet on the ground and deliver. At the Reserve Bank, I had an opportunity to just go into the branch of the Citibank, which was just about 50 meters away from where our office was. And you won't believe me, as I landed in that branch, I just couldn't imagine that this is a branch in India. The people who conducted themselves were so polished and so sophisticated. The place that I walked in was so plush with the carpets. The decor in that branch was so beautiful. I just couldn't believe I'm in India. It took me some time to even frame my question and ask them if I can open an account in their branch. I couldn't afford it because they had minimum requirements. This was 1984. In 2006, I was the Reserve Bank Director of Research in Banking. I was told to do a chapter on the report on banking, which is a statutory report of the Reserve Bank of India. And I was told to do a chapter on financial inclusion. January 2006. I thought before I write a chapter, I should meet people who are on the ground and whom we want to include in financial inclusion. So I went and interviewed Bombay Dabbawalas. I went and interviewed the cobblers sitting on the street, and I could see when you go and talk to a cobbler and tell him to repair your shoes or slipper, he is able to talk to you. But when you want to talk deeper to him, he is very shy and scared. So I used to go dress up in a pajama and a chappal and a little shoddy shirt and tell them that I'm a researcher. I'm just trying to do some study on the cobblers, the headload workers, the banana sellers. And I asked all of them a single question. You have a bank nearby. In one case, the cobbler was sitting outside the branch. And I asked him, do these people from the branch come and open your account? He said, yes, they come, but why should I open an account? Do you repair their chappals? Yes, they repair. They come here and get them repaired. Do you ever go inside the branch? No, sir, I can't go. There is a man standing with a gun at the gate. He's standing with the gun just to kill me if people like me start going in a branch. This bank, this institution, this branch is for rich people, sir, not for people like you and me. I realized in 2006, the fear that a common man had for entering a branch. It was not alien, because in 1984, I had gone into a Citibank and asked them. As I walked in, I was under awe. It took me a few minutes to ask them a question if I can open an account at that place and what is the minimum balance requirement. I could understand what people on the street feel. Flashback. I'm doing my postdoctorate studies at Harvard. I go into Harvard Business School for the first time. I'm already going to Kennedy School, which is government institution. I'm government training institution. I'm already going to MIT. I'm going to Department of Economics, who are my host. And you can't imagine, as I stepped into the Harvard Business School, I was under awe. It looked like a plush, rich commercial entity. Very well carpeted, totally air conditioned, and the decor and furniture and the conduct, even of the receptionist there was so elegant as I've entered a sophisticated corporate office. I used to work in the Reserve Bank in Bombay. I had an opportunity to go to the office of the Tatas. I knew what Tata office looks like. When I went to Harvard Business School for the first time, as I entered, the whole setup is so perfect for a rich, grander business corporate house. 2 years, children trained there. And then when they get into the real life corporate world, they hit the ground running. Not like me, who had come from a simple family and took 6 months to come and speak my mind in front of my boss. Not like me. But the business school's job is that if you have to train them, you have to train them to speak their mind from day one. Why? Because They are fighting the battle on the ground. And believe me, I come from an army background, and at IIM Bangalore, I invited General Bikram Singh, who had just retired as Chief of Army Staff, I think commanding an army of 10 million people. I called him to come and speak to our students. And he asked, Professor, I'm an army general. You are a professor of economics in a management school. What is the convergence that you are looking at? And this was 2016. I told him, you are fighting a battle against all your enemies, planning, strategizing, timing. This is exactly what we are doing on the ground in the business every day. And I see lots of commonality between being a CEO of a company and being a general in the army. Both of you are fighting your battle on daily basis. You are strategizing and you are thinking, what next? You are planning what type of competitions. You are looking at the scenarios. You have different theaters. And therefore, a child who is undergoing training at a business school has to learn how he has to battle his competitors every day. And not only that, it's a theater war. It's a theater fight. You move one, you do not know your opponents will move 10. And there are so many of them outside. Some waiting for an opportunity to set up a business, some already in business, some competing to overtake you, all sort of competitions. Each one is drawing a strategy. It is nothing but survival of the fittest. And this is the jungle. And here nobody belongs to anyone. And all that matters is twofold thing. I have to survive in business. My business has to survive in the world. And therefore, you are so insecure as an individual and you are so insecure as an institution. Tomorrow, you may get wiped out. If the institution gets wiped out, I stand nowhere. If I get wiped out, the institution collapses. So the general came and spoke. And he spoke to our students. And our students were thrilled. And when they saw the commonality between the general and the CEO, they all agreed. Therefore, the role of a business school is to prepare the child, the student, to go and fight the war. I tell you, just imagine Abhimanyu in the Chakravyuh. You put a young lad on the job. You have trained him. His bosses feel he is being trained in a business school. He is ready for everything. But then the child is caught in a Chakravyuh and he doesn't know how to get out of it. He is young, he is confident, he is passionate about his job, but then he's in a Chakravyuh now. Because as he enters the business, there are veterans waiting there. And each victory means my profit line goes better. It is survival of the fittest that you are preparing your students to be. So therefore, when we in the business school are training our students, when we are talking of making business magnates, we have to think, what are we training and what is our objective? My objective is I am training soldiers to fight the battle. And what battle is this? It's not a battle between Ambani and Adani. They are family. There is a battle, even in your family and my family. A family of 4. The wife is battling with the husband to establish priority. The son is battling with his parents to say, I have arrived. The daughter is finding her own place and saying I'm equally important. The husband is finding space just to survive. There is a battle. There's a battle in the joint family. There's a battle in the friendship circle. There's a battle at your work front. Each one has to survive. But the battle which I have in mind is a $5 trillion economy. Do you think people sitting outside are angels that they will tell you, here is a $5 trillion for you, and now you become a $5 trillion economy? Do you think that will happen? No. You will have to battle every inch to establish yourself as a $5 trillion economy, and then a $10 trillion economy, and then a $30 trillion economy. Do you know today America is a $21 trillion economy? It is 10 times bigger than us. We are around $2.5, $2.6 trillion economy. China in 1978 was as poor or as we were in 1978. Today, China is $12 trillion economy, second largest economy in the world. Do you think they became a $12 trillion economy and you and me were in our senses in 1978? And now, in the last 42 years, India could not become, despite we trying to become, could not become even a $5 trillion economy, whereas China is now a $12 trillion economy. Do you think they will give you on a platter and say, welcome India, here's your $5 trillion tag? Do you think so? No. And do you think the country can become a $5 trillion economy without our businesses growing? No. The $5 trillion economy means our businesses will double. How will they double? Let me ask you a question. And I was posed this question about 6 months back in a trade association meeting by a Japanese professor. The Japanese professor told me, Professor, you are chairing a bank, a public sector bank. You've been a professor at IIM Bangalore elite institution. Are you ready for a $5 trillion economy? And you know, I was stunned. I said, what? You have to be ready for it? It will come and I'll happily celebrate. And we will all celebrate. He said, no, professor. $5 trillion economy is not double your economy. $5 trillion economy is not sitting there to be achieved. You will have to struggle and struggle and struggle. The more you struggle, there are countries which will compete with you. They will be insecure of you. They will try to dwarf you. They will try to kill you. They will try to distract you. Are you ready for it? I said, I don't understand. And do you know this professor from Japan? He's double, not double, he's about 25 years older than me. And when he said it, so much things played in my mind. Yes, when Japan was trying to overtake America in 1980s, you know what America did with Japan? And they had one lost decade, and then the second lost decade, and then they had the third lost decade, and Japan became an aging economy. And then Japan could never recover, and now is not the second largest economy. When China is trying to overtake America, you can see the battle being fought. The geopolitics in the area is changing. And China is trying to raise its head like a plant, the seed in the ground, trying to come out and see the sunshine. That's exactly how the struggles take place in the world. In 1978, China did not have a single foreign company on their soil. They were hardcore communists. Today, despite COVID, despite the allegations of China's role, 9,60,000 companies, foreign companies, operate in China. How and why? And that is why China is becoming a $10 trillion economy and posing itself to overtake America. Therefore, if the country has to become a $5 trillion economy, who is going to become the $5 trillion economy? Not the police, not the army, not the parliamentarians, not the legislators, not the bankers, not public servants. It is the business and the corporate sector which has to grow and dream and achieve a $5 trillion economy. Just imagine a country of 1.4 billion and one gold medal and 4 years of training, and that also the training not in India, in Germany, and then one gold medal comes. And when you want to be the richest country or the fastest growing economy of the world, you can well imagine you need such javelin throwers, such gold medalists across the country. So when the Japanese professor, who is much older than me, asked me that question, he knew what America did to Japan in 80s and 90s and 2000, and how that country had to lose decade after decade of growth. And do you think when we will aim to become a $5 trillion economy, nobody will oppose us? No. You have seen yourself. Vietnam, Bangladesh, Estonia, Indonesia, they are grabbing all the businesses that are falling out of China for political reasons. Have you not seen that? Have you seen how Bangladesh textile sector is growing faster than in India? And today, Bangladesh's per capita income is higher than that of India today. So we who are in the profession of training management graduates and business school have a great responsibility. The $5 trillion economy actually depends on our shoulders, not on the shoulder of anyone else. To be honest with you, psychologists will be needed, sociologists will be needed, economists will be needed, but what are they needed for? To provide support services, to lead the brigade into a $5 trillion economy. It is the business schools, professors who have to train, and 10 to 15 to 25 years from today, you will see the results, not before that. So the responsibility is on yours and my shoulders to train people to lead the brigade into a $5 trillion economy. Now let me come down and talk about a few things that these countries who are the leading brigades in the world have done through the business schools, where are the gaps and which we need to fill up. So before I go there, I want to talk to you something about what we are. For 1,000 years, we were the richest country on the planet. And when I mean the richest, I mean leaps and bounds beyond what America is today. Let me quantify this statement. Today, America accounts for 21% of total output produced in the world. There are about 206 countries in the world, and America alone accounts for 21% of world output. China accounts for 12% of world output. India accounts for 2.1% of the world output. You can see now what America can do and does. You know what China is doing and planning to do. In a nutshell, they dictate the world. And this is not new, even in your family. If somebody is earning so much, everybody listens to the person and fulfills each whim and wish of that person. So in the galaxy of countries, if you don't listen to them, they have huge armies, they have drones, they have fighter planes, they have aircraft carriers, and they can also starve you of food, as they did for India before 1969. PL 480 is known to all of us. India, for 1000 years, was accounting for 33% of world output. Let me remind you, China accounts for 21% today, and you can see how they flex their muscles. India accounted for 33% for 1000 years. America has taken the mantle of the richest country on the planet from after Second World War. Before that, it was United Kingdoms. In 50 to 75 years, you have seen how America consolidated its position, but it's just 75 odd years. India was the richest country on the planet for 1000 years, accounting for 33% of world output. How was it? Was it because of the army? Was it because of the worshipping Brahmins? Or was it because of the trade and the business community that we had in our country? It was obviously trade and business. 2000 years after that, we continued to be the richest country on the planet. 2000 years, and our share fell from 33% to about 20%. And then all over the world, there was a run for India. Go and discover what is India. Go and discover the philosophy of India. Go and start trading with India. And that is how so much of gold came into India. So the DNA of India is success. It is a different story. We had invaders for 800 years. Some came from Mongol. You have all heard about Ahmad Shah Abdali and all those people who came as invaders. They set up their shop here. And some came as traders. They were very white in their skin, but very dark in their heart. And what did they do? By the time they left in 1947, we were no more the richest country on the planet. For 300 years, these white-looking invaders called themselves traders, sucked our blood, siphoned our riches, and reduced us to a country where 90% of the population was below the poverty line. They left us 75 years ago. And within 75 years, you have seen that India has produced some of the most successful businesses and businessmen in the world, because it is in our DNA. We are built to succeed. We are hardworking people. We are sharp and intelligent. We look for opportunities, and we then convert those opportunities into gold mines. This is the role and job of a business school, which we lucky to be entrusted with. And if we are able to produce 16% of the world population that we account for, if we are able to produce 16% of people like Satya Nadella, then we have fulfilled our role. Until then, with 16% of the population on the anvil, if we only produce one Satya Nadella, we are far, far behind our target. And believe me, it is the business schools which will produce business people who will then lead the country into $5 trillion economy. Now let me, with this little background, come and talk to you straight about what are the synergies that the business schools can provide and where are the gaps. I had a chance to study at Stanford for about a year and a half doing my postdoctorate, and the Department of Economics was next to the Stanford Business School. Again, plush. And the synergy that the Stanford Business School has with the Silicon Valley is amazing. And the speakers from the Silicon Valley who come and speak at the Stanford Business School, unimaginable. Every day, every week, there are people who are coming and rubbing shoulders at Stanford Business School. Just imagine a young child of 20, 22 years listening to the business magnates and how does the brain work and quickly build up and build bridges and the networks and the lessons they learn. It is pure Mahabharata. You're fighting your battles. And in these battles, unfortunately, it is the ends that matter. How you reached to become the CEO is not something that people question. You are the CEO is what people acknowledge, right or wrong. I'm of the view this is not right, but we have Mahabharata, and Mahabharata is telling us that in a fight, dog eat dog. You have to be ready for it and you have to be prepared for it. And Stanford and synergy with Silicon Valley is so beautiful. And imagine if young minds are made to face those challenges, by the time they join the corporate sector, they're leaps and bounds ahead than anyone else. They are strategizing, they are thinking, they're planning, they're ready with a war plan. I had seen the same thing at Anderson. I had an opportunity to go there as a visiting professor in 2018, and I taught one term. Anderson, same thing happening in Los Angeles. And one thing which I like very much about Anderson is when they do the projects, they don't do classroom projects. They don't do projects which you can complete and sit in the library and go and submit. No, they send teams to the real corporate sector. And who judges them and who gives them grades? The HR head or the departmental head in that corporate sector. So there's lots of work which the professors do. They have contacts with all the corporates in Los Angeles area, even in Boston, even in San Francisco. Then students in their summer will fight real life issues, prepare their answers, consult the professors, and then go and make a presentation. And if the departmental head or the institutional head, you did a good job, he will give you grade. If you have done a bad job, he will give you a bad grade. Real life situation, you are making them fight, participate in the battle on the ground and come out with solutions, not very solutions. not textbook solutions, but real life solutions. So I think this is a great exposure a child gets. It's like the medical education. You don't keep learning from the books. And on the day you become a full-fledged doctor, you see a cadaver for the first time, and then you want to learn how to slice or stitch. No, they teach you from day one. Here is the body. Here you slice. Here you cut. These are the organs. For 4 years, the child is doing that. And then once he becomes a doctor, is still an intern. I think in the business world, the Anderson and the Silicon Valley, Stanford examples are superb. Now, the business schools, of course, are important. They play a very contributory role, a role which no one else can play. The subjects in a business school are generally very varied. Any businessman who has to face these circumstances is prepared, ranging from all marketing and human resources and accounting and economics, some philosophy, some psychology, some sociology. Business schools generally prepare an all-rounder businessman. So they're important, they're contributing, and to a great extent, children who come out of the business schools are better equipped than coming out of plain universities subjects. They also equip you with the tools. They make you understand the business environment. They also tell you what tools you can use, be it simple Excel sheets, be it some regressions. They also tell you how to analyze the situation, the bigger situation and the local subject situation. If you are in the iron and steel industry, what's happening there, they'll teach you how to analyze. They also tell you what is the bigger situation in the country and the policies and the tax policies. And they also tell you what is the global scene. So to a great extent, the business schools are helping you in training, skilling, and tooling you to really handle the real life. One of the things that methodology involves is case studies. Now in the case studies, generally, as I've seen, these are of the past. The world is changing so rapidly and so furious a pace. And when you do a case study which was 10 years ago, it may not be as applicable today as it was then. Therefore, analyzing a case study may help you prepare and sharpen you, but may not prepare you for the worst case scenario today. And that is why I said the Anderson School experience to me was very good. And the Silicon Valley with Stanford was also good, because here comes a CEO and tells you what he's facing today. And then you know the real life, and then after he goes, you keep thinking in your mind how to tackle it. Now, I was in Stanford in 2004 and 5. I was in Anderson in 2018. Has Stanford changed its strategy? I would not know, but I can tell you that whatever little I saw at Harvard, Stanford, and Anderson, it was basically training people on the field, throwing them in the water tub and say, go, and you will be graded by that person, not by me as your professor. I've skilled you, I've told you the tools, now go and show it under my guidance. So I think that's very, very good in a case study. Now, in a case study, still in a classroom, how do you handle complex human behavior? You may call it office politics, but then that is there. How do you train your candidate? Because I'm telling you, my own reading of the situation with my age and my experience, the world is not a simple place. It is survival of the fittest from day one. If you don't survive, the game is over. But you have to survive and you have to skill them. And if you don't survive here, you have to find another place where you can survive. But survival is the only mantra. How you survive is what you have to teach them. How you skill them is so important that despite odds, despite challenges, despite setbacks, you still have to survive. Now, the business schools also provide you a good network. There's no doubt about it. When I interact with people and realize, oh, they are at Harvard, they are at Stanford, and they have the alumni clubs. And when I used to go to those alumni clubs, you find the whole cohort moving forward, each lending a helping hand to each other. And of course, alumni also provide feedback to their alma mater. Sometimes some of them come and teach at their alma mater, and those are priceless moments when your well-trained student has gone and fought the battle, was Abhimanyu caught in a Chakravyuh, and then comes out and says, Professor, can I teach a semester? So that Abhimanyu, when he teaches, is priceless, because we as professors, most of us have not been Abhimanyus. We graduated, did our PhD, and never soiled our hands in the real life, most of us. So here comes an Abhimanyu, and I think the role that Abhimanyu plays in through the alumni circuit is immense and should be respected. So there is a network which is built, and the whole cohort moves up in the world. And this is what I think is very, very useful and important. Now, where are the gaps that I see in our education of the business school, of course? As I told you, the case studies are a peep in the past. As the saying goes, the professor always set the same questions. And when he was about to retire, somebody asked him, Professor, I've seen your question paper. For the last 30 years, you haven't changed your questions. And the professor answered, for the last 30 years, I've never had the same set of answers. Because as children grew, the answers kept changing. The questions were the same. And this is exactly what I feel. Yes, the answers were different, but you have to encourage creativity in your children, because the world is changing and you have to teach them to be alert. And this is something like, even while they are sleeping, they can be attacked. While your corporation, you think sunset, but no, it never, because somewhere it is rising. I'll give you one example and then I'll move forward. I was working in Washington, D.C. at International Monetary Fund. Very competitive place. 185 odd countries are represented there. 54 teams. The executive directors, 24 of them. They are representing about 186 countries. So each executive director represents 5 or 6 countries on an average. Issues come up, and then there are groups formed. And the easiest group is advanced countries versus developing countries. And this is not fiction. You have seen what has happened in COVID. In America, with a population of 33 crore, 1/4 of us, they have cornered 100 crore of vaccines. And they are not allowing that 100 crore vaccines which they are storing to be distributed to other countries. Even if twice the vaccine has to be, you need 66 crore vaccines. And that is going to happen over a span of time. And even if you say there is wastage, you may need 10% more. But 100 crore vaccines you corner, and countries like India are struggling to vaccinate their own population. So at the IMF, as well as in the World Bank, groups get formed. Advanced countries versus emerging countries. Now in the emerging countries, you would have heard of a group called BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Is my voice clear, by the way? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we can.
My voice is clear?
Yeah.
Okay, I just got a message here saying that there's an internet problem. Okay, fine. If it's fine, I'll continue.
Yeah, right
So
now it's
now, you have a group: advanced countries versus emerging countries. Within the emerging countries also there is a group. These countries are, as I told you, BRICS countries. So now these countries will meet in the daytime, and Indians will also meet. Indians are part of the group. And you know what will happen? They will go for coffee at 3:30, 4 o'clock. They will decide what our strategy will be, and they will come home happily saying, we have done a strategy. Tomorrow when the meeting starts, we five are going to be on one side, and when BRICS are together on one side, we are a force to reckon with. And you know what happens? Tomorrow when the meeting starts, you find China is not talking the same thing as they decided yesterday in the tea party with you. What happened overnight? South Africa is not talking the same language. Brazil has suddenly gone silent and not talking the same language. Oh, this guy didn't even turn up for the meeting today, is absent. Why? Because it's a dog-dog world. It's a competitive world. It is survival of the fittest. You went home thinking everything is sorted out for tomorrow, but 12 hours of night was there. And somebody will call you for a drinks party, and somebody will call you for some another party, and by the time you come in the morning, everybody's position has changed. It's survival of the fittest. Each one is fighting their battle. Why should the advanced countries not tap and see which one is the weaker of these five and buy them? It's so easy to buy because everybody's economic interests are different and everybody is located with different resources. I may be rich in oil, somebody is very rich in other minerals, and I have a special clientage, say, with Germany. Somebody has a special relationship with, say, France, and they will use their resources to weaken you. So therefore, you have to ensure that the students we are training today, we are not training them to be popes. Nobody is saying that popes will take us into a $5 trillion economy. You have to play the game the way game is played. It's musical chairs. And if you have to train your students to become and achieve a $5 trillion economy, in war, everything is fair. So you have to make your students confident and creative. They have to think how they will ensure what they're planning is delivered. I never understood the meaning of a statement, there's a slip between a cup and a lip, until I went and saw global competition and I realized, oh God, where are ethics? Where is discipline? Where is honesty? Where is transparency? Nowhere. The only constant is change. Every minute, situation changes, and you have to be alert. It is a jungle. You never know from where the leopard will come, the lion will come, the tiger will come. You never know. You are being watched by each one. You are on an open street. You are facing competition, and we have to train them. And I tell you, until you train the Indian students to face the music, it is impossible that we will become a $5 trillion economy. Impossible. Secondly, Please remember, failures are bound to happen. There is no stigma with the failure. Failures are pillars to success. We have to remember it. And I learned it in a very difficult way. I was doing my studies at Stanford. You know the Silicon Valley story, full of venture capitalists and angel investors. And I met a couple of them while I was there. I was there for about 16 months. I asked them, what do you see? After all, you're going to invest millions of dollars into a young man. What do you see? They said, we see fire in the belly. Okay. We see at his passion. Okay. We look at his knowledge base. Okay. Well trained. Yes. Okay. Is there a professor behind him? Yes. Fine. Okay. What is his pedagogy? Where did he study from? What were his subjects? We see all that. Okay. Suppose I ask them, there are 10 people from Stanford and Harvard. Now what will you do? Getting into Stanford or Harvard means all these conditions are getting fulfilled. You have passion, you have fire, you have good professor behind you, you have good subjects you are being taught. Now what will you do? Oh, he said, we have a final test. Not one man. What is the final test? How many times he has failed. If he has not failed, he is not worthy for my investment. If you had a smooth walk, you cannot run a good business facing competition. You have to have the fire test. Until you have burnt yourself, hurt yourself, you will not successfully lead a business. Failures are not stigmas. Failures are assets. They have so much to teach you, so much to share with you, which never comes from success, which only comes from failure. And we in our country shun failure. I think we should encourage failure. If somebody constantly fails, one can understand. But one or two failures, I think we should allow them to take the risk. If we do not allow them to take the risk, please tell me, how will they grow? And whenever you take a risk, you are bound to fail many times. And that is how it should be. Do you know, we and you used to learn about that story of a spider building its web and failing, and after multiple tries, finally succeed. The joy of success after failures is one thing. The learning through the failures is of immense value. That is something we need to treasure. And this cannot happen by just reading or listening. It comes from yourself, soiling your hands. Now, how do we do this? Why in our country, in our religions, we are taught to self-introspect every day. Look at your own individual balance sheets. Look at your assets and liabilities. Look at your flaws and your strengths. That exactly, I think, has to be done. The evaluative exercise should not be performer-based and tick marks. The evaluation has to be far more stricter and out of the box. There have to be scenario analysis. And through the scenario analysis, one has to analyze where is the right thing that has been done and where did we falter. I want to now close my presentation and share something with you. Even in an elite business school like IIM Bangalore, where 450 students are absorbed every year during the placement season, 25 to 50 can't make it to the job market. They don't fail, of course. They do find the placement if not during that season of placements, but later. But why do these 25 to 50 suffer this fate? My analysis has been they are lacking risk-taking, communication skills, and creativity. So therefore, it is important for the business schools to ensure that every child that takes entry is taught how to be creative, how to communicate better, and how to conduct yourself confidently. I think these three things we have to take care. The last point I want to make is about Mahabharata and the ethics. As I've told you, the ethics have taken a beating in this race for the best. In this race for the best, there's been a single indicator, the bottom line, profits. And you know, world over, this is all that matters. But then there are institutions, there are corporates which may not rise to top corporate houses, but then are respectable and maintain high ethical standards. In India, we call the word corruption as evil. In America, they found a more sophisticated word, but equally evil, that is, they call it lobbyist. Unfortunate thing is that ethics have to play an important role in a life of an individual as well as the corporate. And to make people learn ethics is not going to happen overnight. Secondly, you can't expect me to follow ethics when it comes to corporate management and be unethical in my real life. These two things can't happen. If you want me to grow morally and be ethical in my behavior, if I'm ethical in situation X, I will be ethical in situation Y. So therefore, you will have to ensure that my ethical standards are maintained while you teach me the competitive theories and survival of the fittest mantra. And to me, in every business school in our country, we have to teach Ramayana and Mahabharata. There is no way out that in this business world to survive and be the fittest and retain our old glory of 3,000 years old and 2,000 years old when we were the richest. These were the only two books which were available to the Indians, Ramayana and Mahabharata. When we were the richest in the world, we were very, very ethical. It is later, when the invaders came, we lost our riches, we lost our ethics. Today, we cannot claim to be a very ethical country. But 3,000 years ago, we could claim to be a very honest, ethical country. We may have to redraw the business rules. We are 16% of the world population. We have a heritage of 3,000 years of richest country. We don't have to be shy of redrawing the rules and then interacting with those countries, those corporates which live up to ethical standards. And when I mean ethical standards, I mean respect for the environment, respect for the air, water, and earth. I mean pollution. I also mean compromising on human behavior. All those things have an important role in your success as an individual and the success of the corporate that you work in or that you lead. And I think the Indian business schools can contribute significantly to setting global ethical standards in conduct of business. Thank you very much once again for giving me this opportunity to talk to all of you and share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, by blessing us with your words of wisdom. I would like to invite some questions from participants.